Hey everyone, Senza here, and welcome to another Marvel's Avengers video. So, in this video, I just wanted to kind of talk about, gear in general in the Avengers and how it's potentially brilliant. Now, I've seen people talk about how, like, the gear is bland in Avengers or, doesn't add much to the game, how they've no desire to farm the loot, and, even though that, that is an opinion, but I have to disagree with these people. And I believe that they either have not played or they just, didn't look deeply into the interactions between the gear perks and the skill trees. So, like, once you get up, like, sure, if you have, like, green, blue gear, it's not really that great. But, like, once you get the purple gear, and then when the full game comes out, legendary, exotic, the at higher levels, the perks have such, decent perks on them. Like different perks have decent abilities on them, and they interact with your skills in some ways. Now, some characters they interact with better than others, but they're I think they have a pretty good interaction as long as you get far enough into the game to actually see that. And if you actually look at the skill trees and look at what these effects are actually doing and know what these effects do, like the status effect ones in particular. So, one interaction I wanted to point out is like the invisibility for Black Widow. So there's a melee gear piece that causes her invisibility support heroic to grant increased crit chance for its duration. Now there's also an upgrade for her high caliber rounds that increase the crit damage dealt. Already we can see how the gear piece can improve the skill in the tree if we select it. And again, this is something that you have to select. You don't start with the high caliber rounds. You have to upgrade the gun, the ranged attack portion of the primary skill tree. Remember, we have 3 different skill trees. And then you have to get to all the way down to the bottom of that particular tree to unlock the crit damage upgrade for high caliber rounds. So the more chance you have to crit, then the more value for that skill because it's crit damage, not crit hit. So getting gear with crit on it will increase the chance, and then of course having that invisibility active. So now you have a decent crit, you go invisible, and you're gonna have a higher chance to crit, meaning now this crit damage thing is a much more useful skill to choose. And there are also multiple perks that will add specific elements or status effects to one of her gun types. Full auto, high caliber rounds, even just the regular pistol shots. And the gear says it on there. As long as you look at it, it'll tell you like particle damage from full auto shots or, shock damage from high caliber shots. And if you were to get a range piece that grants one of these effects for high caliber rounds, for example, then combine that with the, crit, the the range damage piece with the increased crit chance while invisible melee piece and the crit damage high caliber round skill, then you've created a very powerful synergy. That's 2 different pieces of gear and 2 abilities of Black Widow. One being, so in the skill tree, and there's going to be skill trees in the game that actually will affect her invisibility, I'm sure, because the other 2 skill trees, one of them at least involves their abilities, their heroics, if you will. So there's no telling what other type of synergies we can have with the invisibility. So that's a lot of synergy. That's a much deeper system than it seems, and that's a very powerful synergy in my opinion between the gear and the skills, especially once you get to higher levels and you are a high level yourself in order to actually choose your playstyle. So now getting to why I believe potentially, because we can't say for sure, but just based on what I've seen in the beta, why it's potentially brilliant. And the idea itself is brilliant if they're doing it on purpose, of course. Because the important thing to note here is that these gear pieces are adding or complementing what is already in the game. Things may seem light now, especially at lower levels, but that's just because we don't have access to the other 2 skill trees. We don't have access to the higher level gear, and we have no idea what kind of perks you might even see on exotic gear. But this type of synergy means that we can have complex interactions with each other and the skills you choose to invest in while it's not seeming like the gear itself is required. So the gear pieces, for example, for Black Widow, again, gear pieces do not grant invisibility. or access to high caliber rounds. Those are things that she already has. Invisibility is just her support heroic. High caliber rounds, although she does not have that, that's something that you choose to progress in. You choose as you level up to put your points in and work your way towards that. There's no RNG involved. There's just playing through the game. And so you have these two skills and abilities already in the game, and then the gear will just beef that up. You know, the gear doesn't give you invisibility, but it does make the invisibility better, or could make the invisibility used in conjunction with other things. And it's important that players feel like they're progressing and unlocking and choosing their playstyle and not hoping to achieve that from just a random drop. Too many games, I think, try to put too much of the fun on the loot. Those pieces that you have little control over, completely RNG, rather than the actual controllable things like skills and combat, especially ones that you choose. With a finite number of points, you have to choose your playstyle. So if you wanted to have high caliber rounds, that do high crit damage, then that might mean that you're going to, pass up something on like full auto or the regular pistol shots, or, some sort of a melee ability. Like, you're going to be giving something up, so you have to choose which playstyle, you're going to play. And so, like, imagine if she couldn't go invisible, right? Unless you had a specific gear piece, especially if it was like a rare exotic piece. Well, if you want this invisibility playstyle, and just there's so many different things you could use invisibility for, now you have to farm this piece just to get that skill. You would feel like, oh, I'm not going to be able to have fun until I get this piece, rather than I'm having fun getting new pieces to complement my build, or things to let me try out other types of builds. So I think that's a very important distinguisher here, and why, I think this is a good thing to have loot this way. By allowing players to gain all of the game-changing features simply by progressing and choosing for themselves, they won't feel like they have to grind just to have fun. The game should be fun, and you should feel like you can do what you want without getting a specific piece of gear. Then you can grind for that gear that will complement your already chosen playstyle. So again, we don't know for sure how things are going, but just based on what I've seen in the game, that alone, once you get to higher levels, and then the percentages, of course, would go up as well. So, I really do believe that even if it's not intentional, they might not have even done that intentionally. I do think that it's still a brilliant, uh, you know, idea. Let everything be obtained in the game just by leveling up, just by progressing, just by choosing what you want to do. And then the gear drops, the stuff that you're going to be grinding for, is to, fill out your chosen playstyle. If you're, a Black Widow that wants to focus more on guns, then now you're going to be getting pieces, that focus on precision. Things that will give you, like, range damage. If you want to do, like, certain, crit builds and, like, crit high caliber rounds and crit damage with that precision, the proficiency in valor to increase your crit and range damage, and then get those status effects like the shock status effect that increases the amount of crit you do. There's a lot of stuff there, and I just think people are not giving it enough time, not enough thought, or just enough exploration to really see the intricacies of this system. So that's all I wanted to just point out. Just how I think, give the game a chance. I really do think that the gear system mixed with everything else is, fairly deep and has a lot of potential. So if you like the video, please give a like and subscribe for future videos. I'm going to be, I'm going to play a lot of Marvel Avengers at launch. I definitely hope to bring a bunch of content, guides, and other stuff. And as always, thanks for watching.